And Proverbs chapter 27 verse 23 makes a promise so absolute that Solomon says it is impossible to stay poor if you obey this one command. Yet 80% of Americans cannot tell you their exact net worth right now. King Solomon was the wealthiest man in human history, and he did not guess about his assets. First Kings records his precise ledgers, counting every talent of gold, and every chariot and every horse. For 3,000 years, Jewish families have used this same wisdom to conduct quarterly asset reviews, building generational wealth that survives crisis and persecution. Most Christians today live in a financial fog. They do not know the value of their home, the balance of their retirement accounts, or the total of their debts. And they hope for wealth but avoid the very discipline that creates it. Why do Jewish families track every asset 4 times a year while Christians violate the Proverbs they read? What does it actually mean to know the condition of your flocks in the modern world? Here is the ancient system that makes poverty impossible when applied to your modern life. And you are about to discover the exact framework Solomon used, the spreadsheet method Jewish families pass down, and the one discipline that guarantees growth. You cannot answer the question of what your net worth is right now. You are likely violating Proverbs 27:23 and guaranteeing your own poverty. But it does not have to stay this way at the end. And a prayer for courage to know your financial condition awaits you. And Proverbs chapter 27 verse 23 says, "Know well the condition of your flocks and give attention to your herds." Solomon was writing to landowners, merchants, and leaders in an agrarian society. Wealth was measured in livestock, land, and gold. The principle embedded in this command is simple but profound. You cannot manage what you do not measure. Knowing your condition is the absolute prerequisite to growth. And Solomon did not just teach this principle, he lived it. 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 14 says, "Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold." He tracked everything. He did not estimate his wealth or hope for the best. He maintained exact asset ledgers. Here is a man who understood that wealth left unattended will inevitably leak away. But here is what most people miss when they read this passage today. They assume this command was only relevant for an ancient time when people traded in sheep and cattle. They think this verse has nothing to do with their modern mortgage or their retirement account. The reality is far more confronting. The principle Solomon established here is universal and timeless. And Luke chapter 16 verse 2 demands, "Give an account of your management. If you do not know what you own, you do not own it. The bank owns it, or the market owns it, or entropy owns it. You are merely a temporary custodian who is unaware of what is in your care." And the modern financial system has fragmented your wealth to the point of confusion. You have a retirement account here, a mortgage there, 2 credit cards, an auto loan, and a checking account. And you have 10 different logins and no unified picture of your wealth. This creates a psychological state of financial fog. When faced with this complexity, most people choose avoidance. 80% of Americans cannot accurately list their net worth. They suffer from ostrich syndrome, hiding their heads in the sand, because they are afraid to see the reality of their debt or the stagnation of their assets. And some Christians add a false spiritual layer to this avoidance. They say that God is their provider, so they do not need to obsess over numbers. This is not faith. This is stewardship failure. And God provides the seed, but man must count the harvest. Ignorance does not protect you. Ignorance guarantees loss. When you do not track your accounts, inflation erodes them, fees drain them, fraud goes unnoticed, waste accumulates. And you wonder why you are not building wealth despite working hard and earning a good income. The answer is that you are leaking wealth through untracked accounts. A bankruptcy attorney will tell you the saddest reality of their job. And clients sit in their office shocked to learn their actual total debt because they never tracked it. They let fear keep them in the dark until a crisis forced the light in. And the ancient Hebrews understood something modern finance refuses to teach. Wealth is not built by earning more. Wealth is built by tracking what you already have. N. The ancient Hebrews developed a system rooted in Proverbs 27:23 that guarantees wealth preservation and growth. It is called the quarterly asset review. Proverbs chapter 27 verse 24 explains exactly why this system is necessary. And it says, "For riches do not last forever, and does a crown endure to all generations." Wealth is fundamentally transient. Without active management, it disappears. The Jewish families who built generational wealth understood this. And they did not just read the Proverbs, they codified them into family practices. 4 times a year, the family would gather for an asset review. And they would bring out their ledgers and update the values of their properties, their businesses, their accounts, and their debts. They did this in January, April, July, and October. And the shepherd in ancient Israel counted his sheep daily because he knew a missing sheep today meant poverty tomorrow. And the modern believer is commanded to count assets quarterly because a leaking account today means poverty at retirement. Active attention is the core of this system. This is not passive hoping. And this is deliberate, scheduled, mathematical attention. When you maintain this quarterly rhythm, you are obeying the biblical command to give attention to your herds. You are refusing to let your wealth drift. And you are taking dominion over your resources. Let me show you exactly how this works in practice for your household today. And the system mechanics are intentionally simple. You do not need complex financial software. You need a single unified ledger, which is simply a spreadsheet. In this spreadsheet, you list every asset you own. And you create categories for real estate, business equity, retirement and investment accounts, and liquid cash. Under each category, you write the exact current value of every single item. Then, you create a section for debts. And you list your mortgage, your credit cards, your student loans, and your auto loans as negative numbers. You subtract your total debts from your total assets. This gives you one number, your net worth. And this is the mathematical reality of your financial life. Proverbs chapter 21 verse 5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." And tracking is the ultimate act of diligence. Every January, April, July, and October, you spend 2 hours updating every single value on this spreadsheet. And you log into your accounts, you check your property values, and you update the numbers. You cannot grow what you do not track. Tracking alone forces awareness. And when you see your net worth number in black and white, your behavior changes automatically. You will notice a credit card balance creeping up, and you will pay it down. And you will notice an investment underperforming, and you will investigate it. Awareness stops the bleeding. And when the bleeding stops, accumulation begins. Now here is where this becomes truly powerful. And the modern financial masters independently discovered the truth. Solomon wrote 3,000 years ago. Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, taught that you must know the intrinsic value of your assets at all times. And he warned against relying on market prices alone. Warren Buffett built his empire by tracking the quarterly fundamentals of his companies with relentless precision. And Solomon understood what Graham would later call the margin of safety. You cannot have a margin of safety if you do not know your exact numbers. And every public company in America is legally required by the Securities and Exchange Commission to file a quarterly report. Wall Street demands it. Investors demand it. And the entire modern financial system is built on the principle of Proverbs 27:23. Yet you do not demand it of your own household. You run your personal finances with less rigor than a publicly traded company. And if a corporation refused to do a quarterly report, its stock would crash. Yet you wonder why your personal wealth is not growing when you refuse to do the same. Where are you watching from right now? And drop your location in the comments. Let me see where this ancient wisdom is reaching today. The biblical command to know your condition is validated by the highest levels of modern finance. But the principle goes even deeper than the modern financial masters understand. And when you implement the quarterly asset review, the implications go far beyond just knowing your numbers. First, tracking removes emotional decision-making from your financial life. And when you operate in financial fog, every money decision is driven by fear or impulse. When you have clarity, you make decisions based on reality. Second, tracking protects your relationships. And financial infidelity and divorce are often rooted in the financial fog. When spouses hide accounts or avoid looking at the numbers together, trust erodes. And sitting down at the kitchen table 4 times a year to face the spreadsheet together brings peace and unity to a marriage. Clarity rebuilds what fog destroys. Third, tracking creates generational legacy. And you cannot pass down an empire if you do not have a map of the empire. A family that tracks together stays together. However, you must heed this warning. Do not let the spreadsheet become an idol. And it is a tool for stewardship, not a tower of pride. You do not track your net worth to boast. You track it to be found faithful. If this ancient wisdom is resonating with you, like this video right now. And it tells the algorithm to spread this biblical financial wisdom further. Here is what you need to understand before we go further. And applying this system requires you to face reality this week. You must open a spreadsheet and list every account. Do not guess the numbers. Log in and look at the actual balances. Look up the current market value of your home. And call the bank for your mortgage payoff amount. Total every single credit card. The first time you do this, it will be uncomfortable. You might discover your net worth is lower than you thought. You might discover it is negative. And that is okay. This week you build the list. Today you establish the baseline. This quarter you do your first official review. You only need 2 hours, a computer, and the courage to face the truth. The starting number does not matter. And the trajectory is what matters. Once you have the baseline, you can adjust, you can cut expenses, you can redirect investments, you can attack a specific debt, but you can do none of this until you know the condition of your flocks. And the ancient system works because it forces action through awareness. You are stepping out of the fog and into the light. Now, here is the moment that changes everything you thought you knew about this verse. And most people read Proverbs chapter 27 verse 23 and think it is an agricultural instruction manual for ancient sheep farmers. They picture a shepherd on a hillside and assume the verse has no application for their modern life. But Solomon was the richest man in history. He was not just managing sheep. He was managing gold, silver, chariots, trade routes, and international commerce. 1 Kings chapter 10 records his exact asset ledgers. And he was not just talking about livestock. He was establishing a universal principle of asset management. This was not farming advice. This was asset tracking. Your flocks are your real estate. And your herds are your retirement accounts. Your sheep are your business equity. The verse Christians thought was, for shepherds, is actually for them. And every Christian with any asset must track quarterly or violate this command and stay poor. This is not a suggestion for those who like spreadsheets. This is a command for anyone who wants to be a faithful steward. And the verse you thought was irrelevant to modern life is actually the foundational wealth-building discipline for everyone. So what does this mean for you? Everything. And the immediate implication of this twist is that you can no longer use the excuse that you are not a numbers person. In the kingdom of God, stewardship is a requirement, not a personality trait. And 1 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 2 says, moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. Faithfulness means knowing what you have been entrusted with. And you must sit down with your spouse and face the numbers together. If you are single, you must find a trusted advisor or mentor to help you review your ledger. And financial fog destroys marriages because it breeds secrets and assumptions. Clarity brings everything into the open. When you write down the total debt number, it loses its power to terrify you. And a vague monster in the dark is always scarier than a defined enemy in the light. Once you see the debt on paper, you can create a strategy to attack it systematically. Spiritually, tracking is an act of faith. And you are acknowledging that God owns it all, and you are managing it on His behalf. You are saying that you take the responsibility of stewardship seriously. This shifts your mindset from being an owner to being a manager. And a manager knows the inventory of the warehouse. When you sit down to review your assets, you are performing a spiritual act of alignment. You are agreeing with heaven that resources matter and that their management is a sacred duty. And this removes the false division between the spiritual and the financial. And God cares about your balance sheet because it reflects your stewardship of His provision. You are no longer operating in the dark. You are stepping into the office of the steward. And the Jewish community has applied this tracking discipline for centuries, and their history proves its power. The quarterly family meeting around the kitchen table is a staple of Jewish family life. And the spreadsheet is passed down through generations. This practice helped Jewish families preserve wealth through persecution, expulsions, and systemic crises. When a crisis forced them to flee, they always knew their net worth. And they could liquidate assets quickly because they knew exactly what they had and where it was. The Beth Din, the rabbinical court, often helped mediate business and asset tracking to ensure fairness and clarity in the community. And this collective emphasis on tracking created a cultural safety net. The reason Jewish families are disproportionately represented in wealth statistics today is not luck. It is not a conspiracy. And it is the mathematical result of a 3,000-year-old tracking discipline. They obey Proverbs 27:23 while the rest of the world ignores it. They understand that wealth is not static. And it must be actively managed or it will be actively lost. When you adopt this historical pattern, you are joining a lineage of disciplined stewards. And you are stepping out of the chaotic modern approach to money and into an ancient, proven system of generational preservation. This is the system that built the Rothschild and Warburg fortunes. And it is the system that allows families to survive the collapse of currencies and governments. And you are not reinventing the wheel. You are simply returning to the ancient path, the path of the shepherd, the path of the king, the path of the faithful steward. Here is exactly how you apply this starting this week. And the implementation framework requires 4 specific steps. Step 1 is the inventory. This week, open a spreadsheet. Create 3 columns. Name the column's asset or debt name, current value, and notes. And list everything you own and everything you owe. Your house, your cars, your retirement accounts, your cash, your business equity. Then list your debts, your mortgage, your student loans, your credit cards. Leave nothing out. And Step 2 is the baseline. Today, calculate your net worth number. Total your assets, subtract your total debts, and write the final number down. Whether that number is positive or negative, you now have a baseline. And you know exactly where you stand. Step 3 is the quarterly review. Block out 2 hours on your calendar 4 times a year. January, April, July, and October. Update every number. Review the changes since the last quarter. And did your net worth go up? Did it go down? Why did it move? What adjustments do you need to make? Step 4 is generational transmission. Teach your children this system. Show them the spreadsheet. And let them see the net worth grow over time. This is how you break the cycle of poverty in your family line. The biggest obstacle you will face is the fear of the starting number. You might be terrified to see how far in debt you are. But remember, the starting number does not matter. The trajectory matters. What is one asset you know you have not checked the value of in over a year? And think about it right now. That is where you begin. Go check it today. And the generational legacy you leave depends entirely on this tracking discipline. If you do not track your assets, your children will inherit chaos. And they will spend thousands of dollars on attorneys and accountants just trying to find the assets you left behind. Statistics show that 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the 2nd generation. and 90% lose it by the third generation. Why does this happen? Because the tracking discipline dies with the first generation. The children inherit money, but they do not inherit the discipline that built the money. N. Proverbs chapter 13 verse 22 says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." You cannot leave what you have not mapped. To leave an inheritance to your grandchildren, you must build a system that outlasts you. N. The quarterly review is that system. It is a rhythm that can be passed down. What will your grandchildren inherit? Will they inherit a spreadsheet showing 30 years of disciplined growth? Or will they inherit a pile of unopened bank statements and a chaotic legal mess? This is not just about you. This is about everyone who will carry your name, your obedience to Proverbs 27. 23 today secures the financial future of your family for decades to come. You have learned today that it is impossible to stay poor if you obey Proverbs 27:23. The ancient wisdom of Solomon has shown you the quarterly asset review system. You now understand that tracking is not obsessive, it is obedience. Your financial avoidance is over. Before we pray, I need you to subscribe to this channel. More of Solomon's ancient wealth principles are being released every week. You do not want to miss the Proverbs 6 emergency protocol we will cover next. Click subscribe now, then return here. Close your eyes if you can, or align your thoughts with mine. What we are about to speak is not formula, it is alignment. Father, we come before you as stewards of the resources you have entrusted to us. We confess that we have lived in financial fog. We have avoided looking at our numbers out of fear and shame. Give us the courage to know the condition of our flocks. Break the ostrich syndrome in our lives. Help us to implement the quarterly review. Give us discipline to update the spreadsheet 4 times a year. Where we have debt, give us a strategy to conquer it. Where we have assets, give us wisdom to grow them. We trust that as we are faithful in little, you will make us rulers over much. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. You are no longer blind to your wealth. You are a faithful steward. You are now equipped to track your assets and build your legacy. Go and build with wisdom.